inclusive environments takes focus and direction. Today I'm here with Bank of America's Steve Boland, who has made it his mission to create an inclusive environment within his organization. Thanks for being with us today, Steve.
Thanks, Marcia. Good to be here.
You have made it to the top, one of the top jobs at Bank of America. Can you tell us how you were able to navigate through an organization that large and make it all the way to the top?
Yeah, well, thanks, first of all. There's always hard work, right? There's some lucky breaks that I think you get along the way. But if you get after that, I think there's a couple of things that happen on my part and on the part of some of the people who've given me opportunities. I've been willing to take a little bit of personal risk, step outside of my comfort zone, try things that maybe are a little scary to try when you're doing it, but not being afraid to fail, but instead being interested in learning. And then I've had people who've been willing to take a risk on me. So you need leaders who are willing to look at you and say, hey, I think you've got the talent, the aptitude. Let me give you a chance at something that may not exactly be the perfect setup or profile for your background.
I love that the fact that you say step out of your comfort zone. I tell women all the time to step out of your comfort, even if it's a little risk. But if you don't take that chance, you never know what you can accomplish and what other doors may open from that.
That's absolutely right. You build your network, you expand your knowledge base.
Right.
And really at a company like Bank of America, really the path to moving up is moving sideways a lot and really learning about the business.
And that's not a bad thing, right? Sideways helps you move up from time to time, right? It's not always, straight to the top. You have to navigate your way through. Can you talk about a time when you might have encountered some challenging or difficult situations that you were able to overcome as you made it through your journey?
Sure. Anytime things don't go quite as you'd hoped, you're disappointed. You didn't hit a goal, you didn't make a metric. Or in fact, I was talking about the sideways movement. There's points in your career you start to wonder though, wow, am I not moving forward? And I think the thing and the lens I've put to it is anytime something didn't go exactly as I'd hoped, instead of kind of just licking my wounds, I've said, okay, so what do we do about it? What did I learn from it? And I've actually found out I probably learned more from the times when I didn't knock it out of the park than when I did. And so it's that intellectual curiosity about how to improve, how to get better, how to do more. And I think the second part is I've really learned new roles, different roles have been all about learning for me. Right. And I've kind of let the rest kind of work itself out, but really say, gosh, is the work interesting? Am I learning and am I growing?
Did you do that on your own? Did you have a mentor or a sounding board? Because I'm curious, as you navigate and you deal with challenges, was there an outlet for you to talk to and learn from?
Sure. Now, I've had a number of mentors, both within the bank as well as around the industry, and I've had some people that have been incredibly generous with their time and with their wisdom, and sometimes kind of taking my younger self and saying, hey, let me help guide you a little bit here. And so I think mentors are incredibly valuable because they'll give you the insight and the information that you need, tell you what you need to hear. One of the things I tell people when you think about mentors, don't get someone who's just going to make you feel good. Actually get somebody who's going to challenge you and who's really going to give you the feedback you need.
Yes.
And it's a safe place. They're not assessing you in terms of your job. They're helping you grow.
Right. And I know in part of your management style, being inclusive and creative and inclusive environment is so important. And there's a lot of talk about, creating inclusive cultures within a workplace. You've been successful at doing that. Do you have advice for other leaders who are trying to tackle, it's different than diversity, right? You can have diverse teams, but how do you make sure you have true inclusion?
Yeah, I've told people, if you don't include all the voices, you're going to make inferior decisions. The reality is, at my leadership team, I want everybody at the table. I want them to contribute and help us get to the right answer. And so I know that earlier in my career, I maybe really was learning on that journey of inclusion, and I realized I didn't make the best decisions as to when I had every voice at the table for us to really get to the right one.
Right. And do you have any metrics within your organization, whether it's formal or informal, to make sure that this remains a focus? I know it's a focus for you personally, but is there a focus at the top at Bank of America as well?
There is. So we have a Chief Global Diversity and Inclusion Officer, but as well, I serve as a Vice Chair for our Global Diversity and Inclusion Council. And we have metrics that are around representation. We have metrics that look at everything from how we have people in development programs, who we're hiring, who we're promoting, and really making sure that we're looking across at all the talent that we have in the organization.
Right. That's also, I always say we need to be purposeful and accountable, and it sounds like that's something that you hold true as well. So I'm going to wrap up with a question, selfish. You know, we're leading mPower, and this is an mPower moment, and I would like to know what advice you would have, particularly for women in our industry, on whether it's professional development, growth, something to look out for, anything you can tell us as you've watched women within your organization, your career navigate. What can you share with the women of mPower that we should know?
Yeah, you know, it's a little bit of everything we've talked about today, but I think the one that we talked about, really be willing to step out and take some personal risk. Take on a role that is not the natural role. Get out of your comfort zone. Don't be afraid to fail, right? Be anxious to learn. Be intellectually curious.
Awesome.
You know, you look at a company like ours where 30% of our board, 40% of our management team, half of all the leaders at Bank of America, half of my leadership team, all women. And they're in different roles that are not necessarily roles that they came up in a traditional path, but instead we've got people that went from investment banking to consumer banking, from sales to operations. And I think that's my biggest encouragement, really kind of step out there and take advantage of every opportunity that's there.
Well, those are pretty impressive stats for Bank of America for gender equality. And I think it's so important for us to have men who have made it to the top and are being leaders in bringing diversity and inclusion into the workplace as part of the solution. So thank you, Steve, for being here. I appreciate your words of wisdom, and I look forward to working with you in the future.
Absolutely. Great to be here.